Samsung just pulled off something most people didn't expect. Not just a 2-nanometer chip, but the beginning of breaking free from third-party GPUs. And if this works, it could quietly change how Galaxy phones are built for the next decade. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. Here's why the Exynos 2600 actually matters. For most of the last few years, Exynos has been complicated. Samsung struggled with its foundry in 2024. Yields weren't great, performance gaps were obvious, and eventually Samsung played it safe by using Snapdragon across the entire Galaxy S25 lineup. That alone told you confidence in Exynos was shaky. Now fast forward to the Exynos 2600. This is Samsung's first fully in-house 2-nanometer processor, and it's set to power the Galaxy S26 series next year. On its own, 2 nanometers is impressive. Smaller transistors mean better efficiency and higher potential performance, but that's not the real story. The real story is the GPU. According to new reports, Samsung has designed a GPU for the Exynos 2600 using its own long-term research. Yes, it's still based on AMD architecture for now, but this isn't just another licensed design slapped onto a chip. It includes proprietary Samsung technology that's been in development for years. This is Samsung taking its first real step toward owning the most critical parts of its mobile silicon, and that's a big deal. The GPU handles everything visual on your phone: animations, gaming, camera processing, UI smoothness, AR effects, all of it. If the GPU is weak or inefficient, it doesn't matter how fast your CPU is. Performance suffers, battery life drops, and thermals become a problem. By starting to design its own GPU tech, Samsung gains far more control over how hardware and software work together. This is the same playbook Apple has been following for years. Apple's chips aren't just powerful because of raw specs. They work well because Apple designs the CPU, GPU, neural engine, operating system, and frameworks together. Recently, Apple even started replacing Qualcomm modems with its own in-house cellular hardware. The goal is always the same: tighter integration, lower long-term costs, and fewer compromises. Samsung clearly wants that same level of control. And this doesn't stop with the Exynos 2600. Another report says Samsung is aiming to launch a fully proprietary, completely in-house GPU by 2027, no AMD architecture involved at all. That GPU is expected to debut with the Exynos 2800, and if Samsung's roadmap stays on track, that chip could arrive alongside even more aggressive process nodes, potentially 1.4 nanometers. That would mark a massive turning point for Exynos. There's also a bigger picture here beyond phones. Samsung, like Apple, Google, and Meta, is betting heavily on XR, augmented reality, mixed reality, and smart glasses. These devices live or die by GPU efficiency and latency. An in-house GPU allows Samsung to optimize visuals, power consumption, and thermal behavior specifically for XR workloads, instead of forcing general-purpose designs to fit new use cases. That kind of synergy is hard to achieve when core components come from different companies with different priorities. There's also the money side, which matters more than most people realize. Chip manufacturing costs are exploding. Advanced nodes are incredibly expensive, and memory prices are rising thanks to AI demand. Smartphone prices are under constant upward pressure. When Samsung replaces even one licensed component with an in-house alternative, it saves on royalties and supply chain risks. Over millions of devices, that adds up fast. It doesn't automatically mean cheaper phones, but it does give Samsung more room to avoid aggressive price hikes. Of course, none of this guarantees success. Exynos has burned people before. Performance gaps, efficiency issues, and regional inconsistencies hurt its reputation badly. A roadmap on paper is one thing, execution is everything. Samsung still has to prove that its GPUs can compete with Qualcomm and Apple in real-world performance, thermals, and sustained workloads. But this time feels different. Instead of chasing benchmarks or relying entirely on partners, Samsung is slowly building the foundation for long-term independence. The Exynos 2600 isn't the final destination, it's the setup. If Samsung gets this right, Exynos could eventually become what Apple Silicon is today, not just fast, but deeply optimized, tightly integrated, and uniquely tuned to Samsung's ecosystem. And if that happens, the conversation around Exynos may finally change, not because of marketing, but because Samsung took control of its own future. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.